I read yesterday that Ukraine is giving Nigeria grain. Ukraine is at war.
A presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has called out the Bola Ahmed Tinubu government for accepting grain from a war-torn country like Ukraine. Mr. Peter Obi posted this on his official X account, and this is what he said. He said, "Let me begin by sincerely appreciating the war-torn nation of Ukraine for their generous donation of tons of grains to Nigeria, thereby aiding our current fight against nationwide hunger. As laudable as Ukraine's kind gesture is, it speaks volume for us as a people endowed with all needed human and natural resources, that a country officially prosecuting a brutal war of national survival with its powerful neighbor, Russia, is generous and kind enough with their food supplies to help us who are officially at peace. For the people of Ukraine, this act of humanly solidarity testifies to a rare generosity of spirit which should earn them greater global solidarity. It demonstrates our shared humanity. However, a situation like this underscores vigorously the importance of sound political leadership as the first concrete requirement for any nation desiring to develop and enhance the standard of living of its citizenry. It is disheartening that our once economically confident nation, blessed with vast arable land and abundant natural resources, now relies on a war-torn Ukraine for food assistance. This national disgrace stems from years of leadership failure, necessitating urgent reflection and a reordering of our national priorities and resources management and allocation. Instructively, Ukraine, with a population of 49 million on 603,728 square kilometers of land, outshines northern Nigeria, covering 744,249 square kilometers, with a young, energetic population exceeding 100 million. In 2015, Ukraine's GDP per capita was $2,125 compared to Nigeria $2,680. By 2022, despite being at war, Ukraine's GDP per capita exceeded $4,000, while Nigerians regressed to $2,184. Ukraine cultivates over 60% of its arable land, whereas Nigeria has over 60% uncultivated arable land. Despite the conflict, Ukraine feeds itself and exports agricultural products worth over $25 billion, which is about the same value as our crude oil export earning, and it serves as a strategic global food supplier, even providing aid to a peaceful yet unproductive Nigeria. To overcome this embarrassment, we must aggressively reorder our priorities by investing resources in productive sectors like agriculture. Addressing insecurity is crucial for farmers to return to their field, enabling a productive manufacturing sector and supporting small businesses. In 4 to 5 years, these concerted efforts can reverse the current trend, leading us towards a productive and a new Nigeria that I believe is possible and within reach. After posting this, yes, the naysayers and the defenders of the government actually went to tell Peter Obi, or to argue with Peter Obi, that Ukraine also sent grains to Egypt, which Peter Obi has used as a reference point when it comes to electricity. They were defending, they always have a rebuttal to something, especially when Nigeria is at the receiving end. Now listen, this is what Mr. Peter Obi said after that rebuttal from the government officials. After my comment, this is what Mr. Peter Obi is saying to them after they are using Egypt to compare Nigeria. After my comment on the embarrassing grain assistance which Nigeria received from a war-torn Ukraine, some government spinners in defense tried throwing up a comparison, pointing at Egypt, which also got grain from Ukraine. In my remarks, I stated that such an offer, though aimed at ameliorating the impact of food crisis in Nigeria, remains artwork to the nation, considering that we, as a nation with more fertile land and a working population, now receive aid from a war-ravaged nation like Ukraine. Egypt was particularly mentioned by the spinners to have received the same grains from Ukraine long before Nigeria did. September last year, this was when Egypt received their own grain from Ukraine. And that Egypt is still dependent on Ukraine for its wheat and much of its fertilizer needs. It is important to clarify that over the years, Egypt imports 60% of its grain, out of which about 22% is from Ukraine. The important grain provides half the flour that goes into a subsidized bread program that feeds over 72 million Egyptians daily. Egypt, therefore, just enjoy a business relationship with their grain supplier, Ukraine, whereas in the case of Nigeria, it was an emergency donation to help us fight a hunger epidemic that has resulted from economic mismanagement. To illustrate further, on a global hunger index, Egypt ranked 57, while our dear nation ranked 109 out of 125 countries measured. So, while Egypt has a hunger level considered moderate, Nigerians in the league of 20 hungriest countries in the world with a hunger level considered serious. Egypt, without facing severe hunger, are not in the list of hungriest nations. Exported over $9 billion of agricultural products in 2023. May I also point out that our grains donor, Ukraine, still maintains a hunger level considered low with a ranking of 44 on the global hunger index, 7th highest grain producer, exporting almost $23 billion despite years of war. The situation is actually painful because we have all it takes to even surpass Ukraine in grain production if we were a more serious and productive nation. The vast arable of land in the north, if put into a productive use, will not only give us sufficient food for local consumption, but even the surplus for export. Unquote, Mr. P2B. During the 2023 presidential election campaign, Mr. P2B emphasis, his mantra was from consumption to production. Mr. P2B overemphasized on the need that Nigeria needs to start producing, and he focused his attention on the north, that the north has uncultivated arable land that needs to be cultivated, that if put into productive use, the north can feed Nigeria and also feed the world. Now, Ukraine has been in war for years now, close to 2 to 3 years, but Ukraine is giving grain to Nigeria to help ameliorate the suffering of Nigeria. It's a kind gesture actually, but it's a shame that Nigeria with over 2 million citizens cannot feed herself. That is a shame. Ukraine, from what Mr. P2B stated, has a population that is not even up to 100 million, but yet they are able to feed themselves and export. Ukraine is exporting product to other parts of the country. But now Nigeria does not even have a bilateral trade with Ukraine. Nigeria does not even buy grains from Ukraine. But Ukraine is giving Nigeria grain to help feed Nigerians. This is crazy. It means that we are unproductive. And this is not meant to be. This is not meant to happen. If the government of the day decide that, oh, I want to feed these people, we need to go back and be productive. We should stop depending on oil. What has Tinubu done since he came to power? What are the policies that have been put in place to ensure that we become a productive nation? This is what Mr. P2B is saying. But yet they want to spin it to compare with Egypt. Egypt is enjoying a trade relationship with Ukraine. Must we be at the receiving end of a negative thing? Why should Nigeria with over 2 million persons be receiving grain as aid from Ukraine that is fighting war? Nigeria is at peace. Ukraine is at war. But a country that is at war is feeding the country that is at peace. That is a shame.
Presidents being represented here and His Excellency the governors, let me very respectfully stand on all due and existing protocols. First is to most sincerely thank leadership for this event. Thank our keynote speaker. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. And I thank all that are gathered here. For me, I always say this award is, I'm grateful to the Almighty God that I had this opportunity, and always opportunity whenever possible. I've said it just every day. I am not desperate to be president of Nigeria. I'm desperate to see Nigeria work. and desperate to see Nigeria fight poverty. And I listened to what the keynote speakers said today. And you could see it in my tweet yesterday. We have no reason being part of poverty in the world, especially in the North. The North have no reason to be poor. We will make more money in this country from agriculture than we make from oil any day, anytime. Because it's happening everywhere. I read yesterday that Ukraine is giving Nigeria grain. Ukraine is at war. The whole of northern Nigeria is 268,000 square kilometers. Ukraine is 603,000 square kilometers. They have no reason to give us grain because we have the land. Why are they giving us grain? Because 60% of their land is cultivated, 60% of our own is uncultivated. And the people even say it's for Northeast. I might be governor of Niger State is there. Niger State can feed Nigeria. Niger State can feed Africa. Niger State is occupying 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land. They can feed Nigeria. Netherlands, with 33,000 square kilometers, which Niger State is twice, exported last year $25 billion of agricultural products. Niger State can do 5% of that, which is $6 billion. They don't need to come to Abuja. Northeast is collapsing. They say there's a problem in the Northeast. It shouldn't be. The two biggest states in Northeast, Borno and Taraba, combined, Borno alone is over 70,000 square kilometers. Taraba is 54,000. Two of them combined is 125,000 square kilometers, 4 times the size of Belgium, at 30,000 square kilometers. And Belgium is doing over 20 billion export. There's so much we can do with this country. Let people stop wasting everybody's time and put these young people that are giving us problems in terms of criminality out of poverty, and you reduce criminality. The more you put people out of poverty, the more you reduce criminality. It's a simple, people make it look difficult. Let's invest in the North. We have what it takes to make Nigeria. Let's do it now.